Let's now bring in Einar Tangen for more insight. He's Senior Fellow at the Center for International Government Innovation and Chairman at Asia Narratives Substack. Einar, you and I always talk about the economic development, the growth numbers, usually during the two sessions. That seems to get the most attention. But let's talk about the equally important social development. We just saw the story about working to make it easier for families to expand. So I want to ask you about your thoughts of some potential proposals that were mentioned to ease the burden on families.
Well, obviously, if you want change, you have to support it. What should be highlighted here, Elaine, is this issue about process. Too often, people just say, "Oh, something should happen," but there has to be a process to do that. You have to gather information, listen to the people. And if I was going at the press conference yesterday for the CPPCC opening. That was the main emphasis. How do you affect change? It's not something where somebody just comes up with one idea and just takes it out there. It has to be an inclusive process. And this is really one of the elements of this kind of whole process, people's democracy that China talks about. It's about actually listening and creating changes that make sense. Now, in terms of what you were talking about, in the past, it was always about economics. But this year, I think there's going to be a big change. It's going to be about balance. The whole point about economic progress is that you can enjoy it, and you have to have a society that you can fully take advantage of in terms of opportunities, education, healthcare, all of these things. And the society itself has to be balanced, which is why they're talking about these softer issues like population. And expanding it. Now, people should understand, China's not interested in simply expanding population. What they're trying to do is smooth out the generations of people coming into China, because it relates to how many schools you have, roads, hospitals, etc. So it's all part of one plan.
Right. And to add to that, Einar, one of the other themes is enabling people to live a happy life. I mean, what does that look like? What does that mean? And you were at the news conference, but what do you hear from your friends and colleagues?
Okay, a happy life is one of those amorphous things. I mean, if you ask a dozen people, say, "Well, I want to be rich," or "I want to be successful or famous," or other things like that. But I think really a happy life is about responsibility, both coming from you and towards you. In society, people want to be respected. They want to have opportunity. That relates to education. So happiness is not one thing. It's a combination of things that allows you to live safely. You don't have to be worried about walking around at 4 a.m. in the morning, regardless of where you are. It is about having that a sense that there's something greater tomorrow that you can do. But it also infers that there has to be a sense of responsibility. You can't just have me without us.
Right. And we know what China has done over the years, lifting hundreds of millions of people out of poverty. So a lot of the population living much better lives. As China closes out its 14th five-year plan, did it reach its goals? And how does that dovetail into this new 15th five-year plan?
Well, yes, they did reach their goals. And this is one of the aspects of Chinese government, and especially the two sessions that people just don't understand. They have a yearly report card. Everything they said last year or the previous year or the previous five-year plan, they actually are held accountable for it. And they have to explain why they met it or didn't meet it. And their record is pretty impressive. They're way above 96% in terms of not only doing the internal things, the process, but also achieving the goals. You see this with electric vehicles, new technology. They're constantly adjusting. Now, today we live in a dynamic environment. Obviously, those adjustments have to come a little bit quicker. You cannot, the Chinese government cannot control what happens outside of China. They're really focused on what they can do within. And that's why you hear the things about resilience, about new productive forces, consumption-led economies, and things like this. It's all part of a larger plan, but planning is the key to success.
All right, two sessions getting underway for you there in Beijing in just a little bit. Einar, I'm sure we'll be talking to you throughout the next 2 weeks. Thank you for joining us as always.
Thank you.